Hi, my name is Altieri. I'm a production designer in animation. I work for DreamWorks. My most recent film was How to Train Your Dragon, which was out earlier this year. I have a long history of movies that I've worked on, from Little Mermaid through Aladdin, Lion King, Hunchback of Notre Dame, Prince of Egypt, Over the Hedge, Spirit Stallion of the Cimarron, and now How to Train Your Dragon. I've worked with a lot of creative individuals and artists across the years, and I think a lot of what I want to talk about creativity has to do with what I can do to pull out someone else's creativity. Because what I do is I basically enable the artists to be their best selves in my day job. That means that I work with any number of artists, 300, it doesn't really matter, on a given film. And I work with them across these 4 years in whatever department they're in, and my job as production designer is to make sure that what comes out on the screen is the best looking thing possible. So in order to do that, I really strongly believe that each artist has to be doing their best work. And in order for each artist to be doing their best work, they have to have certain conditions that are comfortable for them to work in that can promote the greatest creativity. And some of those, every single artist is different, God bless them, because the best of the best artists are the most impossible to work with. And they're the ones that need like the super space, or that they need this way, or they need that way. And it's like everybody's pulling their hair out trying to figure out how to work with these guys. And the ones that are more reliable and more stable and more well-mannered and well-demeanored, they're the ones that have less conditions for their creativity. So each artist, musician, dancer, visual artist, whatever it is that you're doing, is going to find a way for them that's going to be comfortable to work. And they're going to know what that is, because their love of loves in their whole life has always been to do this art, whatever it is. What I find is that artists shut down in a nanosecond the minute that you give them a note. Now, my job is to give them notes all day long, which is really fun for me. So what that means is that when we're giving an artist suggestions, if I'm art directing them, or there's a team of us giving them notes about, we need to make it more of an overcast day to go with the feeling of the film, or whatever it was, then the way that you deliver those notes is really important, and the way that the artist feels about those notes is really important. So part of what I do is I make them sure that they're understanding why we're asking for what we're asking. It's not an arbitrary comment. It's not, make it darker because I said so. It's more like, okay, I think this should be darker over here because we need the light part over there to stand out, or whatever the situation is. I work with a lot of technical people as well, who are creative problem solvers, and they do so sort of in their technical engineering world. And their creative process is very similar to the artistic creative process. And I think there are certain conditions, and everybody needs a different thing to get their job done. Some people need like a tight deadline. I need to be thrown up against the wall. I need to be held against the wall with nowhere to go. The thing is due at 12 o'clock and you haven't started it yet. It's going to take a half an hour and it's 11:35. Are you ready to start the piece yet? Other artists have a very almost ritualistic, methodical way of working. They gather their reference, they pull their thumbnails together, they do some preliminary sketches, and their process is very orderly. Others thrive on chaos. And there are a few people who I know who, when they take notes, their notes are all over the place, and if you try to put them in a box, you try to get them to type on a computer, you try to get things on a lined piece of paper, they'll go haywire. It shuts them down. So a lot of what we do in terms of managing the creativity of the artists that we're working with is keeping them inspired and keeping them alive and keeping them excited about what they're doing. And this can happen in any field. It's not just, the entertainment industry. Is not just animation. It might be painting, music, dance, writing, any job or artistic pursuit that has a requirement for inspired energy over a long period of time. It's going to need something. It's going to need something to give it a breath, to give it fresh energy and fresh life, and to give it a new infusion of the joy that you originally came to the table with. For me, one of the most important things for me to do is to change anything. Maybe I change my medium if I'm painting. Maybe I change the people I'm working with, or maybe I change the assignments for the people I'm working with. Maybe someone who's been doing architecture forever gets to play with the organic stuff. Maybe someone who's been doing color does black and white. Maybe someone who's been doing drawings works on the computer. So you can take that same creative, energetic bead and apply it through a different tool to get a fresh output, because the tools mess you up. I mean, they just do. That you sit in front of Photoshop and you're not used to it, you're going to get a different kind of result than you did back home with your comfortable pencil. And sometimes that discomfort is what gives you the life that you're looking for, and the sort of the artistic squeeze that brings life and an energy to the artwork. For every artist or artistic sort out there who's listening to this, I would say you need to be really honest with yourself about finding what makes you energized, and finding what makes you tick as an artist, and finding what makes you excited about what you're doing, and finding kind of your favorite chair to sit in, physically and metaphorically as well, so that you've got all of your energetic tools aligned in a single direction so that you can be your best, most creative self. When you talk about creativity, to me, creativity is really all about inspiration, and it's all about being bigger than you are, and being bigger than everybody else has been already, and being better than, or finding a new way to, or showing us something that we've never seen before because it's coming through you as flesh and blood and as a spirit on this planet once in this life. That's our expression. That's why we're artists. And in order to get that kind of inspiration, it's not like you light candles and inspiration comes. It's not like you stand in front of your canvas and you wait for the sword to strike. Art isn't like that for me or anybody else who I know. Art is sweat and toil and trauma and hair pulling and teeth gnashing and the rest of it. And I think that's just something that nobody taught us in art school. You know what I mean? It's like they said, well, here's your craft. You learn to lay in the paint first, and then you put the other coats on top of it, and then you do this and that and this and that, and then you're going to have a finished painting, and you execute that, and you have a very finished, dead-looking painting, which is lovely. Mom and Dad loved it, but, what's it going to do for humanity? What's it going to do for the bigger picture? What's it going to do for your art self as it's coming through? In order to receive that inspiration, you have to show up at the canvas. It's as simple as that. You have to show up. And showing up, to me, is one of the hardest things on the planet. I go through bags of Doritos. We fix numerous cups of coffee. We'll go for walks. We'll exercise. We'll go pull weeds in the garden. We'll do anything on the planet to keep from facing that canvas, or facing the typewriter, or the pen and the piece of paper, or the instrument, or whatever else it is, because it takes a certain amount of energy to get through all the stuff that tells you you're stupid and you shouldn't be doing this. I don't know if everybody else has that. I have that. I have the thing that says, really, who are you kidding? There are artists out there who are like way better than you are. So just put down the pencil, don't hurt yourself, and why don't you go make yourself a nice cup of coffee, something like that. That doesn't help my art process here. That just means that I avoid it for another 50 years. So, in my opinion, part of the inspiration deal is showing up, and part of the showing up is raw discipline. Twyla Tharp is a choreographer who's 20th century, cutting edge, the best of the best. She did a lot of choreography for Baryshnikov, and she has a book on her creative process. And her whole deal about her discipline, now she's a professional dancer and she's retired as a professional dancer, but she's still a choreographer. Her discipline is to call a taxi at 5:30 every morning. That's it. She calls a taxi. She lives in New York. The taxi comes and picks her up and she says, take me to the gym. Once she's at the gym, she's able to work out for 2.5 hours, and then she goes and choreographs and dances, no problem. But getting to the gym, that's her resistance. That's her obstacle. So she's found a way to get through that resistance, to overcome that, to get to the place where she can be creative. So everybody's got their trickery. I have to sit my boyfriend down in a chair in the backyard while I'm standing at my easel, knowing that he's going to be sitting there and I'm going to be at the easel and I'm going to be painting and he's going to be writing, and that's just what it's going to be. And if at the end of the day nobody's gotten nothing done, then we're going to stay there until it's midnight, and we're just going to keep working at it until there's a mark on the canvas. It's just that simple. The other thing is, you never know when inspiration's going to strike. I teach a landscape painting class, and the important thing for the grade is that students show up. It's as simple as that. It's almost like you get an A if you show up to class, because it's the hardest thing. You just show up. You show up, you sit down, and you paint. It's that simple. Nothing could be harder on the planet. Nothing could be harder than actually sitting down and painting what's in front of you. So the discipline for them is to show up, squeeze out the paint, and start making marks. The first bunch of marks, they may be great, they may be inspired, they may be sucky, you don't know. Some days are myopically bad. Some days are, oh my God, inspired and brilliant, and they're the stuff of magic, and you don't know which one. It's not like you test your temperature and you go on the creative barometer, well, I think I'm at about an 8 today, so I think it's a pretty good chance that I'm going to paint well. No, that's a bunch of hooey. You show up, you paint, you think you're an 8, you're a 2. What's up with that? Other days you show up, you feel like so bad you can't believe it, you paint, you're a 10. One of my favorite paintings I did, I'd been in Japan for a couple weeks traveling. I got off the plane and went straight to painting class. Okay, all jet lagged and messed up and the whole thing. That painting, while I was somewhere else, I was out to lunch. That painting is one of my most inspired life paintings. I don't know why. Maybe I got out of the way, maybe I was too tired, maybe that's just what it was. I think discipline is a really important part of the creative process, and it's one that is rarely talked about because it's so mathematical. And it's also so easy. It's like, oh really? All I have to do is work. Yeah, that's all you actually have to do. There's a little bit of difference also between, how do I say this? Between coming up with a good-looking painting and the artistic, almost non-physical process of creativity. Because there's a craft that you learn when you're in school. There's the craft of your art form. And those are the tools that you're going to be using to express yourself. The craft is very different from the art. The art is the magic. The art is the stuff that comes through as you're channeling the gods above or your greatest self or whatever other muses you have going on. The craft is the stuff that gets you the end product. It makes sure that the canvas will stay on the stretcher bars, or that your perspective will be in perspective, or that your color will actually be harmonious rather than all over the place. This is going to sound really hokey, and I apologize, but there's one overriding thing that kind of propels the creative machine, and that's, take a deep breath, that's love. I mean, you have to love what you do. And the reason you have to love what you do is because you're going to be running into wall after wall after wall. Some people, for example, love shooting with digital technology like digital cameras. The amount of paperwork that you have to go through to set one of these suckers up and get it on a tripod and get it functioning, it's absurd. You have to love that in order to get through to the creative process. If you don't love the feeling of putting paint on canvas, then you're not going to be able to stand all the crappy paintings that you do over the years. That love, that energy, if you can find what it is that makes you tick, if you can find what it is that gets you hyped up, you've got it. You've got your gold for your life. It may be digging in the garden. It may be putting paint on a canvas. It may be singing in the shower. I don't know what it is. And frankly, I don't care. You got yours, I got mine. And I'm still looking for mine. I mean, it's all over the map. But that will fuel the ship that's going to be taking your creativity on its journey. Without that, nobody cares. You know what I mean? If you don't love it, that's going to be felt. So I think the bottom line is that with creativity, we're looking for magic. We're looking for something beyond ourselves. We're looking for something greater than who we are. We're looking for something to come through us that we don't even know about. That's what creativity is to me. And in order for that to happen, you have to have your ducks in a row. That means that you have to have trained your craft. So you have to know your tools. You have to have a good foundation of artistry and a good solid whatever it is that you're doing behind you. So you study the classics, you study the way the old masters did it, you study the things that need to be studied, and then from there, you look for your own spirit, and you look for your own way of expressing yourself, and you look for your own magic as it comes out onto the canvas. And the only way to do that is to show up day after day after day with your paints all laid out, or your piano, or whatever it is that your art form is, and you go there and you do your work. And some days your work is work, and some days your work is magic. And when that magic hits, there's nothing better on the planet. There's nothing better. You reveal a part of life to other people that's greater than what you know of yourself. And what could be better than that?